looks like it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And we'd like to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight I wanted to do roll calls since Michelle is not here, and it would make it easier for her on the minutes. So I'll start. Terry King.
Jamie Sutphin, attorney.
Chris Greer.
Andrew Knowlton. Charlie Brewer with the applicant.
Brody Smith, Marshall McKinney with the applicant.
Steve Brexka, PDR with the applicant.
Donna Friley.
Sandy Ray.
Greg Stromo, resident chair.
Thank you. And then we have the minutes from the previous meeting. Did anyone have any additions or changes over the initials on those? No? I have a motion to approve. Second?
My last motion.
The last motion, Donna. Okay. And let's see. Ben, did you want to bring up the topic that you and I have been speaking about?
So, there is, Terry wanted to bring up her association with the architecture firm that is doing what work on this project?
The firm that I work for is teamed with Huber Brewer on a project that the contract was just signed a week ago in Binghamton.
It is not this project.
No.
So, while it's not a technical conflict, we want to bring it up. I did bring it up to council, so want to know if council and the applicant have any issue with Terry continuing on this discussion.
No objection.
And given that disclosure, does the planning board, are the planning board members all right with Terry continuing on this project?
Yeah.
And she is not an owner, by the way, of the
No,
architecture
I am
firm.
not. Okay. So the next item I wanted to bring up quickly is we're still looking for a zoning board volunteer liaison. The board meets the second Monday of the month. I did forward the letter at 7 o'clock, so if someone wants to jump forward, I'm all ears. Also, this is Donna's last meeting since she's now been elected to the village board, so we also will, in addition to another planning board member, will need a new liaison to the ARB. So you can think about that. I'll try and send an email out reminder, but if someone would like to be the liaison to the ARB, that would be great as well. With that, I think I've concluded our housekeeping business, and we'd like to turn the table over to the people representing the project at Baldwinsville Town Center.
Okay, thank you for taking the time to have us come back and talk to you. So 2 meetings ago, we provided an initial layout that was reviewed by the Board of Trustees. And then at the last meeting, we made changes. And those changes can be summarized very briefly in 6 points. Parking was increased to 523 total spots for 312 units. That's 1.68 spots per unit. Traffic calming measures were instituted, including stop signs, 5 raised crosswalks, sort of speed bumps to deter speed that are spaced 200 feet apart. The clubhouse was relocated pursuant to comments from this board. Trash enclosures were indicated on the drawings. The building heights were reduced. The 4 buildings closest to Curtis Ave were reduced from 4 stories to 3. And elevations were provided, which included gabled roofs, porches, recessed facades to try to fit in with architecturally with the surroundings. So it's come to our attention since that meeting. Our intention was to get feedback from that meeting on the concept plans, and if the board was satisfied with the project's configuration, we would go and expend the time and resources to produce detailed a site plan package. It came to our attention after the meeting that maybe there was more input that we needed to hear on some of these points that we didn't hear at the last meeting. So we put a pause on all that and decided to come back to talk about these issues and to get your feelings about them. Maybe we'll go through them one by one, just to make sure we know where you stand before we take that next step. So my inclination is to start with the building heights, if that's acceptable. Does our question to the board is the board satisfied with the reduced building heights? Is this, something that it feels appropriate given the industrial zoning and our application for a planned development district?
You guys wanna speak to that?
Yeah, I know when we first met, and first saw the first proposal that had all 4 stories, that was certainly not well received. So this addresses that in some measure, but maybe not as much as I think holistically we might feel it could. For me, I'm really thinking about how this fits in with the aesthetic of the village, and what we saw last week in terms of the elevations that were provided feel a little jarring. I don't picture that when I look throughout the village, when I drive throughout the village. It doesn't strike me as a great fit, certainly in that area too. So that's my initial thought was 3 is better than 4, but is it where we would want it to be, thinking about what we would want in the village, not just now, but long term.
So given the zoning, what do you see as the vision for this? So the alternative, I'd assume, would be warehouse space or something like that in industrial zoning. What do you think would be something we could do to improve it, to make this as a residential development work?
Is it the 3-story per se, or is it an aesthetic that maybe we should address?
Just
I
doesn't
know
seem
that
it may not fit.
I know that we had seen another proposal right after, unfortunately, you guys had left, and there was another proposal that I think got a little warmer welcome, and it was some higher buildings, some
Right.
lower, some townhomes, like it was more of a village within a
I
village.
think it was more what you would see within a village with different heights and different facades and different shapes and that kind of thing.
So the uniformity of the buildings is.
Yeah,
is
I think that's
there.
partially what's bothering everyone, if I can speak for them, but,
Yeah.
What
they're,
would be the difference in height in feet between the 4-story and 3-story structures?
That's a fair question. Steve, do you have an estimate on that?
I would estimate about 12 feet,
I would have guessed 15, but
Yeah.
close enough.
estimate.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, for me, and it's same as it was last time, if you look at that, it looks like we could run the Baldwinsville 500 on that. It looks not much different than what a racetrack you'd see with NASCAR. And so, I mean, not going back to the thoroughfare, but that's, if it was broken up, because when you go into a neighborhood, you feel like it's not just straight through all the time, it kind of meanders some, and then it breaks off. I know right now we have them all going, parallel with the road, but if some of them are offset and there was drive-through, and it took
Maybe
left.
modulation is a fair word
That's-
for what
Yeah.
you're thinking?
You don't
Yeah.
wanna see anything that kind of resembles a grid, like a village grid or anything.
Oh, I don't think that would be,
That wouldn't be
Bad
bad,
at
because
all.
now you have like interconnecting roads in between.
we
I
want
mean,
it to look like it belongs
in
in
a
the village, because
not
it is.
outside the
in-
village in the town,
I think we spoke the last time, if you were out somewhere where there was a subdivision and it was a housing development, that's quite a different feel from right in the village.
Yeah, early on, it was expressed to us that it wouldn't be a public road, that this is essentially what you're seeing as a parking lot.
Yeah.
And so we want to make it aesthetic, given that reality, that we want to make it as aesthetically appealing. The idea behind it was to not have it be a big rectangular parking lot, but we could we could do that.
Well, I don't think we want a big rectangular parking lot.
Yeah.
No.
I think you're misunderstanding what we're saying.
Sure, sure.
And the idea to keep the buildings inward was to keep them off of the property line, so is there?
Of course.
So we're
And
trying to
that's-
push them off.
And that's more important as they're higher.
Yeah.
You know, as they're lower, that's less important because it's in the same scale as the neighborhood surrounding, which is important.
So if I'm hearing you, you'd like to see connections between the
Yep.
roads? Okay.
And I mean, again, a lot of it, it's tough because density becomes
It
the,
does.
the breaking
It's a
point on
driver,
this, you know?
absolutely.
Right.
And
I mean,
that's,
Well, if we
even,
could go higher on the ones further this way, then we could get to the same
No.
number of units.
Now,
So you just want fewer units, or?
that wouldn't break our heart,
Seems cluttered.
you know.
I gotta be honest, that might
I know,
be,
I understand, I know what you're going to say,
yeah,
but
that just may make it economically workable. But yes, we could definitely look at, what I'm hearing is
So
the road configuration needs to change.
so I'm sure you've seen that.
No, I don't know what that is. Yeah, thank you.
Steve does.
how would that affect
Yeah.
pedestrian movement?
How would what affect?
Well, I mean, this does have all these walkways, you know, inside and,
Well, I think if it were broken down into more of a grid, you actually have more sidewalks.
okay,
Mhm.
right, but provided.
I mean, think about in the village, the blocks in the village.
Yeah.
The sidewalks are the surrounding.
So this has conventional parking lots,
Mhm.
which would be acceptable if we were to.
I think we also, as we go along with this, the way the parking is currently and the garages, for all of those people in the apartments to back out into that driving lane and garages across the street, you can't stop people from parking in the garage driveways that don't rent the garage. And I just
We
see.
could though, because it's not a road.
No, we deal with it at other projects like that.
Okay.
So we
It's,
had
that answer is true if it's a road, but it's
Okay,
specifically not.
but
a road.
I just see so much of this, and we're still very concerned about that being a thoroughfare and a cut through.
Okay,
And
I'm very,
you know, I previously was a renter before I lived in the village, and I lived in a complex that had back out parking into like thoroughfares, and it was a little bit hairy, because my kids were very small at that point in time. There were stop signs, you know, I'm sure there was intent to not have people speed through, but it was just the reality of it. And when you go throughout the village, when you go on any side, we don't have any backing out parking anywhere throughout. So, you know, if we were going to go to something that's more similar to what you've just shown there, I think about how the parking would fit into that, because I do think that backing out or pulling out
into the
thoroughfare-
roadway.
if we were to cul-de-sac this to make it impossible to go through, would you be amenable to fire gates to allow the fire department through? We have a requirement to have 2 ways for fire engines to get.
Yes,
Yeah.
we understand that. I'm not sure about that.
You don't,
I-
fire gates are not attractive.
No, it's not really what we're looking for.
Okay.
I mean, I did have one thought about possibly, and there may not be space on the site, it would change the size of the buildings to turn them like 90 degrees and pull the parking into the center
the
between
middle.
buildings.
Okay.
So that you have access out to that roadway from the apartments, but you don't have 500 people backing out at 7:30 in the morning to. I mean, safety, I think it would be better, and it might help the appearance to have the parking inboard.
Look at you drawing, Mr. Lawyer.
Oh, well, I'm just trying to mention that,
I
so
know that you.
we have the buildings
Mentioned.
flip 90%,
Sure, then we'll just get shifted.
yeah,
It's just, it's.
90 degrees, and then have a parking lot.
Right,
Have a parking lot.
right, the size of the building, you might
Smaller
lose.
buildings, you're able to move around and
Yes.
box it.
Exactly, like
Yes.
the plan that you just shared,
Yes.
that was, I'm not sure which version.
That was one of the versions for.
What is it that, if you can explain to the rest of the board listening, what is it that you like about that plan?
Me,
Or, yes.
of that
Pull it
one?
out, yes. Mhm.
Because it's varied and it has, roadways, it's grid-like. Obviously, it's not grids like in the village grids, but it is grid-like.
Is that the 2013 plan?
I don't know,
2014.
what does it say,
2014?
2014?
And so are these townhouses or are these
It
apartments?
was a mix of apartments and
Yeah.
patio
It was-
homes and townhouses and, I'm not saying that's the do-all be-all, it's just, it's an example of
Mhm.
what was looked at before.
That was 220 units.
190.
Do I have any more of
Yeah,
those?
just so the other board members know.
No,
It's like 210.
no, sorry,
You're just
that's
hiding.
mine.
Yeah.
Would you mind passing that around to my
Yeah.
fellow board members? Thank you. So I think that's, there's work to do, but
So if we were to flip the buildings sort of 90 degrees and have parking here, get the taller buildings to the south, the 3-story would stay here, is that kind of what you're saying?
I think you would do more parking lots, not just one big one in the middle,
Okay.
right, Steve?
The idea was to break it up, and that's what we tried doing with this plan, is to have the parking in front of the building, parking across the street, and then the garage
Right.
for each building. So we would try to mimic that if we were to turn them 90 streets and have a dedicated amount of parking for each
But not just
building.
one big parking lot in the middle, that's,
Right.
So is it an issue that there would be no more covered parking? All parking would be outside in this kind of,
I would still like to try to keep that, because
have
it's,
some sort of covered parking somewhere?
it's an amenity.
Yeah,
Covered parking's nice.
it is nice. Yeah.
Especially in this
In
area.
our climate, yeah, yeah. Because if we were to do that, it wouldn't be,
yep, I think all of us still feel that the speed bumps and the stop signs aren't enough stop.
and the big anxiety
We
is,
all live here, we know, it's like it will not.
and it's not desirable to have like an alternate. I know everyone's sort of thinking of ways to prevent it from
I
being cut through.
think-
We want to make sure we
Well,
understand
I
why
think-
is it cut through bad.
Well, just because it's not nice for the people in the middle.
Oh, for the
Gonna-
people who live here, not
yeah,
for the community.
think
at large.
Well, that, and when you have people parking, backing into that,
Right,
Okay.
I'm cutting through there at 3:20 because my kids are getting off the bus at 3:40 and I don't really care if I'm going over speed bumps that quickly. And then I get, and someone's backing out in front of me, so it's that kind of a issue.
What if we were to put up gates? So the only people that can access this have permission to.
That was truly a private, like a gated community.
So how would that work if you had guests?
It'd be a gated community like any other gated
So
community.
they have technology with
Mhm.
your apps and all that stuff, you can send a QR code that's read by a reader.
and deliveries and stuff.
Do you have any experience with that, Charlie, in this area?
Does it work in the cold weather?
Not here, I'm just proposing it could be an option, I mean, they have it in Florida.
It's very common in.
Of course.
I was just wondering if you
Florida.
has
I
any
haven't
Lots of
experience with it.
I'm not sure it fits in with the
Yeah,
general aesthetic lifestyle, this village.
I would agree.
But I will say, moving these buildings 90 degrees, what the people on Curtis Ave are gonna see is a whole lot less.
Yes.
That's a whole lot less building that they're gonna necessarily see
And
in that regard.
yeah, and the other thing about the two entries is it disperses traffic on your arterials. That's a cul-de-sac is the worst thing in the world for traffic, absolutely the worst.
Yeah.
The more entry points you have, the
That's
more
why
the
we do
traffic
this, I think.
disperses.
Yeah.
If you could have 4 off of that, it would actually almost be better, but I know the option to front onto Curtis is not popular. We've been there before.
Okay. So centralized parking, but maybe more than one centralized parking lot, maybe
Right.
you're gonna see 3, something like that.
Yep,
Flip the buildings.
That might rework some of the trash too then,
yes.
just based on how things move.
Trash.
Where
He
the
means the
trash is gonna be
dumpster,
dumped.
he means the
yeah.
dumpster areas, which weren't fully defined anyway on the plan, but it
Were
might.
these spots not desirable here and here?
I don't think that they were finite, and I believe that we were wondering if it was actually enough capacity, but Steve said he hadn't quite fully worked it out yet, it's early,
Right, we know that we'll need them.
yeah.
Is there a preference that they be one location more than another? Do we want them more this way, more that way?
I think it would probably be dependent upon
Yeah, I don't,
selection for the
yeah.
layouts, you know, what could work there
I
then.
mean, they have to be fenced.
I mean, yeah, I would wanna have the placement of the lots or the buildings defined by
Where the
they would
trash
prefer to have
goes,
the
yeah.
garbage.
So, you may recall that the plan is for there to be interior trash collection areas. and
Right.
They're going to be brought out.
Right, brought by,
Collection
out by maintenance staff or something to the dumpsters, yeah.
Okay,
They can bring out like roll-offs or something?
Understanding this isn't final, but it's getting some formulation. Getting back to the height of the buildings, question for the board. Are you amenable? They're trying to get a number. What's your number?
We'd like to get around 300.
Is the board amenable to a 4-story building and a 2-story building? A 3, I am not an architect, but I'm just trying to get the discussion going, you know? So,
so it seems like the view shed we're worried about is Chris, right?
Yes,
So if we've got 3s and they're flipped 90 degrees, the 3's closest to Curtis, are you still comfortable with us having 4s on the other side?
What does the contour map say? What's the difference in elevation between where the 3
Actually, you
stories
get a-
are and the 4 stories are?
I don't have the topo in front of me, but you get a sense of it from the elevations. So the low point is
The 4 stories at the,
low points there.
they're out of, so the 4 stories are at the low point.
No, they are.
One of the things too is,
Goes that way.
yeah, on the opposite side of the train tracks here, kind of towards Terry.
yeah.
That's
here.
almost like a 10-foot rise from the tracks up to where those yards are.
From here, yes, correct,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, you can see how steep it is at the tracks.
It goes back up the other side though, that's a depressed track, so the houses are also much higher up. It goes down back up.
Yes.
It's a bit, yeah. And actually it comes to level as you move that direction. By the time you get here, it's at grade.
Okay.
So if 4 stories are the max, what if all the buildings were 4 stories? If there were, say, 5 4-story buildings,
Instead of,
having a mix? I'm just, I
I know what you're, yeah.
played with building blocks just to, to set this up and to hit the number.
Did you do something that
Well,
we can look at?
it's honestly just
Okay, scribble.
rotating the
Got it.
rectangles, but it's what we were talking about, rotating them 90 degrees, and just knowing that there's a number that we're trying to hit, and these were set footprints that I was rotating, but it does get to be a challenge to hit the number and hit parking, keep the offset. We want to maintain that buffer from the Curtis properties along the southern edge as well. But if we had 5 4-story buildings, that gets the number of units up higher than if we were dropping it in.
That personally would not be my preference.
Okay.
Either, I agree.
You can give everybody 6-foot ceilings. Keep the height down.
In terms of the smaller lots, if we had at least three, we're thinking like 3 or 4 smaller lots instead of this sort of continuous lot we're talking about.
Yeah,
3 or 4 is kind of the feeling we want.
Yeah, I know.
I guess the easiest way to say it is as few stories building as you can turn on that space any direction, get your parking and get close to your numbers.
Yeah, it may not be
Which-
possible, the more I'm like hearing what everyone's saying, to get every single building flipped 90, but if we got half of them, we could create those squares.
Well, you
like
can
it's on
still
the-
make
yeah.
a T
Ts and
intersection
Ls.
which
Yeah,
slows the traffic down. You know,
Right.
we wanna make it undesirable for people to cut through there.
Right.
So a T does that, an L does that, a oval does not.
right. So if we've got, just spitballing, like we got a 3, and we got a 4, the other side of the L, and then the road kind of meanders and comes around. We're thinking something like that, right? The
Yeah,
4's
I-
pushed that way.
The fours towards the railroad
Towards
track,
the railroad
yeah,
track.
yeah.
If we could L it, slalom it. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. But we could keep the same unit count if we could do something like that.
Okay, obviously we'd want to see what it looks
I
like.
think it would be worth seeing, right?
Yeah,
That's answering some of the,
because none of us really know what that's gonna look like until it's laid out.
Right.
You know, and some of the buildings might have to get shorter to make it more grid-like and some longer, or, you know.
We just wanna know if there's just nothing we could do to keep a 4-story building, then that's worth knowing and maybe we rethink. But if you're saying there's a chance.
You have to see it, see the elevations, to
Yeah.
understand,
Yeah.
so, you know, real-time elevations I think are important to see,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
I wouldn't really vote for that, but I'm one person.
You
I
would,
wouldn't
you would
either,
vote
yeah.
for a 4-story building under
I
those
agree.
circumstances? Okay.
But I'm one person, so,
What is,
well,
how does
there
everyone
are
else feel?
4-story buildings in the village
you know.
with the right aesthetic, so.
Well, we didn't kind of get to the architecture.
Right.
That's
And
just,
that may be the
that was just
difference.
some estimate study,
Okay.
so that was the building.
For the sighting
It was the
from
building that we
birds.
had to try to utilize
Okay.
it.
Because we would like to see some more articulation and, I mean, varying heights would be awesome if you guys could do that. I mean,
Besides 3s and 4s?
yeah.
So 5s and 2s?
No.
That was really fun.
No, but
Very clever on you.
mixing
No,
up
but
the
no.
3s and 4s would probably be preferable.
Mhm. I think the general consensus is we like where the clubhouse was moved to, right? Is that to my,
With this alignment?
yeah, is that what you said, Chris?
Yeah, and I'm wondering too,
Oh, yeah,
and I know it might be a point to cover later, but when we're just thinking about the amount of units and I'm thinking about up Genesee Street and the proposed commercial development block, is there something that we could be thinking about that could be, and you might even mention this here, that could be mixed use, or that could be residential rather
Right.
than commercial, and that can bring
Right.
back some of the
So,
spaces?
so that's something else that I was thinking about, and I know that the commercial properties components are not on the table for this, and make that clear, they are not part of this package. But as you move to think about commercial, and, you know, the clubhouse area, this is pie in the sky, but it gives you an idea of what would be a great look, because we would want buildings to the sidewalk line, you know, like our houses are. We would want the parking in the rear, probably off the access road. Opportunity for mixed use, you know, apartments above the retail or office or whatever's on the first floor. Just
Yeah, that's not out of the question.
because that way you're also adding apartments.
That looks familiar.
Does it? Where did you see that, Donna?
Well, I need to. Oh, yeah, okay, I was there. Yes, so were you.
Yes,
And so were you, I saw both of you.
at the planning symposium.
Yes.
But it's, you know, it's a great option that does get you more apartments up above the units, so that we have, you know, mixed use, just like in the downtown of the village.
It was discussed with the town board, the possibility of mixed use.
Okay. The mayor didn't tell me that in our discussions.
Is the access solved, with the buildings you needed to try to get, or not yet?
No, we need to get through this first.
Yeah, we need to know. Okay, if we were to do something different in terms of reorienting the buildings to create, I'll call it the slalom I'm talking about, is it's gonna be harder to have as many parking places. Would it be palatable for our parking count to come down somewhat from where it is now at 523.
I, everything I've seen from everything we've done and everything that feedback I've gotten, 2 is kind of a thing you shoot for.
Two
Take
per,
anything less.
Per
two
unit.
per unit, 2 per bedroom, 2
2
per,
per unit.
2 per
And
unit.
if you went a little less than that, I mean, you have to maybe bank it. But a lot of even the 1 bedroom would have 2 cars.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's inconsistent with our experience in Cicero, right?
Yeah, I don't know the numbers off my top of my head, but I mean, even just over 1.5 would feel sufficient.
I'm surprised at that, actually.
That's based on a recent similar development with
Mhm.
Cicero.
But you would think in Cicero, everyone's driving everywhere.
But not everyone's there every night, so.
Oh, okay.
Not everyone is there.
Why are they not there
Where
every
are
night?
they?
Some people are traveling, some people are working at night, and, you know, it's-
Yeah, nobody works 9 to 5 at the same time, and everything.
Some people work at home.
Very good.
So right now it's try to put them and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, did you, Charlie, wanna mention the workforce housing? Or did you not wanna?
do you wanna go over the UTEP for?
Sure. Yeah, so the county has created a amendment to their uniform requirements, the UTEP. So what the way that the county pilot rules work now, if you have 10% of workforce housing, and that's housing for people that make based on 80% of the median metro area household income, that will allow you to be eligible for a 10-year pilot at 10%. Senior housing would be a 12-year pilot. If you went to 15% workforce housing, you'd be eligible for a 12-year pilot.
Okay, so to be clear, workforce housing is not the same as affordable housing. It gets confused a lot.
That's a really good point. Yeah, it's intended more, like, we're talking about teachers, policemen, and government workers, people who
Right.
make 80%.
Right,
households.
which is maybe what, 50 to 80 grand?
More.
than that.
So the household income for the Syracuse Metro, they use it, Metro is what
Oh,
Ohio
okay.
uses,
They don't use
not, not the county, is, it's about 90 right now, right?
Yep.
90.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not subsidized, and it's,
No, it's not Section 8,
Right.
it's nothing like that.
Right.
So what the county is trying to do is trying to incentivize developers to include as part of their developments, housing that would essentially be rent stabilized
right,
for working people.
And it would stay that way for as long as the pilot ran?
Right, and so the way the pilots would work, so in a 10-year pilot, the first year is 100% real property tax exemption, and then 90, 80, 70, 60. So by the time you get to the last few years, you're paying 70, 80, 90, 100%. So it decreases 10% every year. So it's not a 10-year tax exemption, it's a descending tax exemption in the first year of complete exemption. So that's
So basically a front-loaded 5-year tax exemption.
what's that?
Front-loaded 5-year tax exemption.
So it goes 100, 90, 80,
So
70.
by the time you get half the tax, basically.
Yeah, in 5 years you're
5.
50%.
but
Or
the
5 years you're
economics of
60%.
that makes it attractive too.
It helps fill the gap of what you would have to charge from a market rate standpoint to what
Right.
that rent cap would be.
Yeah, any tax benefit is gonna lower rents.
Mhm.
Is that top rent set?
Say again?
Is the top rent set then for that?
Yes, what the county does is they have it based on bedrooms. So the rent the rent ceilings are in a guidance document on the IDA website. I'll give you approximate numbers for, one bedroom, it's about 1,300, two bedrooms, 1,500, three bedrooms, 1,800.
Okay,
That's 10%. For 10% of units.
Well, it would be 10% or 15%,
15%.
either one. The only difference between the 10% and 15% is where we get a 12-year pilot versus a 10-year pilot. So 15% that makes you eligible for a 12-year pilot.
Okay. You know, the village board asked a question
That's
about
what I'm
that.
asking.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, when that UTEP was announced by the IDA, a lot of communities and school districts commented on
Positively.
it. Not always. But given, I think, I will say on balance, I think there's consensus that more apartment units are needed, given the population influx that's happening, that's gonna be coming in the next few years.
Well, I think one of the things that's been brought home to us is with Micron coming, you know, don't sell yourself short. You know, the people are coming from big cities, other areas, and they're looking for amenities, so, you know, that's
They have
something to
expectations.
consider. There's also the statistic that says that the majority of people now that make between 50 and 80,000 a year cannot afford to buy a house. So they rent, but the rent is so high that they can't save money to purchase a home.
So it is a balancing act.
So there is a,
Yeah.
yes, very much so, and then
The
you
more we supercharge the amenities or make it difficult, the higher the rent is gonna be.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, but then there's Micron. You know, and then, you know, you also have to think about the fact that all of the baby boomers aren't leaving their homes, so that creates the housing shortage.
And I think that's the
It's,
thinking behind the 12-year senior,
Yeah,
they give quite a
senior,
bonus
senior,
for
senior
housing.
might be an option. The previous project was a 50 and over community that was proposed there, which is why there were some apartments and some patio homes and, you know, things like that, because the idea
The
was.
drawing that you gave us.
Yeah, so that you could, you know, go from one to the next. It was and there were supposed to be amenities, you know, doctor's offices and things, so that swimming pool, so that it was, I'm not saying that's what you have to do, I'm just saying that's what that, so the senior component was integral in that as well.
Well, what is your experience with the clubhouse amenity and how critical is that?
It's usually fitness room, community room.
No
And
pool.
No pool?
We haven't done pools in ours yet, but it's something that's been discussed.
But it's something that is attractive to tenants?
Yeah.
Or is it only attractive to getting them in, but they never really use it?
No, the fitness room's obviously the biggest attraction.
Pool if you have children.
Yeah.
You might wanna use
Yeah.
that.
Then it's gotta be enclosed, because I can only use it
Yeah.
4 months of the
So
year.
that was actually my initial question about if you were planning a pool, is because if you were planning a pool, then the clubhouse should be more central
Mm-hmm.
to the site.
Right.
Whereas if it's primarily the leasing office and the community room, different story. You use an existing building, that's good. But that was one of my thoughts, is if it were going to be a pool, it should be more central.
Yeah, we haven't discussed the pool.
Okay. I think you said no the last time, and that's fine.
They're a maintenance.
Yeah,
Good luck finding it.
yeah, for sure.
Okay,
Did
so,
you want the clubhouse more centrally located?
I don't think that bothers me because they're using the existing building and the leasing office is closer to Salina Street, so that, you know, you're not driving through the community to get to it. The only negative I see without a pool is if you're having an event there, it's further carry your stuff, but I'm not sure should be the driver. It's, there's going to be parking up there.
Should there be other amenities? Playgrounds, pickleball courts.
Yeah, well, I think that's part in the landscaping plan, but, I don't know about pickleball.
All the rage.
Yeah,
For a while,
as a town attorney, it's controversial for the neighbors
yeah,
because of noise.
because of the noise. Yeah, pickleball has launched a whole new manufacturing component for products that mitigate the noise from pickleball. Fencing, acoustic fencing.
So, potential need for more amenities in terms of, like, maybe not pickleball, but playground.
We can just circle back to parking. So in the beginning, you said 1.68 spots. Is that, or was it 2? I just want to make sure I understand how many spots you're trying to do per.
What's your question?
In the beginning, we talked about 1.68 spots, or is it 2? How many are?
No, on the plan we have now, it's 1.68 per unit.
Yeah.
And that breaks out to 468 bedrooms, because half of the units are gonna be 2 bedrooms and the other half to be 1 bedroom. So there's 1.68 per unit, but considering half of those units are 1 bedrooms, you can look at it either way, I guess.
I just want to make sure I understood. Thank you.
And then I just made a list of the other things that we've spoken about, mostly just so we didn't lose them. I wasn't expecting answers. I knew you were gonna work on environmental testing. And I know you met with the other developer about the joint traffic study.
It's been commissioned.
Okay, it's there, the things are on the road, I saw them today.
The testing took place 2 weeks ago in terms of
Environmental testing?
Yep.
Okay,
stormwater, dumpster, landscaping, water and sewer capacity, those are all next steps.
okay. The
DOT.
stormwater management will be,
And then wetlands, we have a delineation report that's into the Army Corps right now for jurisdictional determination.
and how are we doing with Beeville Supply?
I don't think we've talked to them since
Okay,
before our last meeting.
okay. Cause that'll be a piece of the puzzle as you define your roadways
Correct.
and your retail spaces. Okay, I think those were, do you have any other questions, Greg? No. Anybody else? Okay, do you have questions for us? Something we weren't clear on, something you need to clarify?
So I am curious, so I heard from the chair that under no circumstances would a 4-story building be permissible on this lot. I'd be curious to poll the rest of the board on that.
Okay,
Oh, I thought some.
no, it's just me.
Was it just you?
I need a better sense of the architecture,
I agree.
design elements.
It would depend on the architecture.
Are there ways to mitigate the impact of the extra height? Not sure what, but
I need to see the visual of that to really,
Yeah.
I agree.
Is it just a bunch of
Yeah.
tissue boxes
I
with a
think 4,
roof line?
or just the.
You know, or you get 4,
Yeah,
and you stagger a
yeah.
4 and then a 3 in the middle and like almost.
I agree, I like to
curves
see the mix of the
on
4 and
ends.
3 to really.
Same buildings or?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know if, it's
Yeah,
all,
you're thinking of kind of townhouse-ish.
yeah,
I
Townhouse
mean, if there's
esque.
more detail.
Well, I think
Yeah.
articulation
Yeah.
and height-wise, even roofs makes a difference.
Yeah.
Breaks down the scale.
I mean, a 4-story building with height-wise, roughly,
Yeah, the whole total
28,
feet.
60?
60 feet.
Total from total
Oh.
height.
Yeah. Yeah, and that
60
Mhm.
feet, okay.
So this is like, from you saying what it would look like from Curtis, that's from the perspective of the walking trail from Curtis. What a 3 would look like. Because in our plan now, the 3s are.
Yeah, I can't envision 4 after seeing the 3 at all. I have to agree, I second that. Don't see a 4.
Looking at this.
I think 3 is high enough.
Did you gentlemen weigh in on
Yeah,
that?
I mean, 4 would not be
Our favorite.
palatable, but the architecture could impact that.
Right.
What we're
Yep.
seeing, what's been proposed to us, to me, I wouldn't be in favor of that. You know, if there's something architecturally that can be done, maybe to break that up.
Also, they're talking about turning the buildings,
Yeah, I mean,
so it's really kind of a whole package issue, don't you think?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
seeing a different proposal
Mhm.
could help.
We'll be providing a few options.
Yeah, yeah, breaking it up, it might change our opinion completely, but that, it's just something, you know, we don't love that. So maybe something different.
Is the parking goal 2?
I mean, from everything that I've heard from our developers is 2, but you guys have different bases, I mean, present. You know, there's plenty of, you know, ITE numbers, urban traffic institute numbers,
I mean, it's gonna be a walkable development. There's gonna be a lot of incentives for people to get out of their cars and to walk into the village. Use all the amenities that we're going to have in the coming years. So,
and that could be one factor that could help justify less than 2, is that it's not like this is out in the middle of, you know, semi-rural areas.
Not to put down any particular town, but.
Madison doesn't have
But
a
the
car,
fact that it's a
could.
block away from the
right,
center
you've
of
got
the
developments like
village.
this that are out in the
May
middle
make
of
a
nowhere.
difference.
That's a great point, yeah.
And people, they're car
And I mean,
dependent.
it's,
Yeah.
This would be considered less car dependent.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, is that something that Central would be, like, contacted at any point? I know that's part of DOT, but, I mean, I have a bus stop in my house, you know, in my yard. But is that something which Central would be able to have that onto the route where now it at least affords people an opportunity to not necessarily need a car or feel that, you know, that pressure if they're moving out, but they still have that.
Yeah, they would certainly weigh in when we send it to the county for
Yeah.
county planning.
Sadly, they keep cutting the routes out here.
We can locate the nearest stops and have that information be provided in the package. Whether or not Central would be willing to create another stop, I'm not sure, but yeah.
Yeah, I think despite the fact that we can walk into the village, a lot of people work outside of the village, drive to Syracuse every day or wherever, so.
I think that's true. I do think though that particularly younger people are, you're saying about the 1 bedroom, everyone's got 2 cars in 1 bedroom.
Not everybody, but-
Increasingly rare.
but it's not, every 1 bedroom is not gonna have 1 car.
Right.
I think it's increasingly common, especially with people working on stuff that people have, even if it's a couple, couple is not one car. We can provide more data on that.
It's a data, right?
Yeah. See what the bank says.
Experience and data.
Let's see, so, I think I got all my questions answered. Is there anything else you wanted to ask?
No, I'm good.
No, I'm good.
This is really hard.
Parking density, so.
Okay, we thank you for coming back and sitting at the table with us and
Thank you for saying that.
discuss our issues and wants, needs, desires to pull together something that works for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
thank you.
So we don't have a set, those who live on Cruise Ave?
Not at this point because this isn't a public hearing.
When's the next public hearing?
It was an informational.
We don't come in.
Right, so this was informational, they really don't have a plan now, they're going to kind of start from scratch. When something comes in, we'll make arrangements for it to be on the website so that you can see it. And then there'll be more meetings. This is very.
How can you have plans and let us know them without asking our input?
And what our concerns are, since we live on the road.
When they come up with a plan, then there'll be another opportunity. This is really sort of, they're starting from scratch.
But by the time they come up with a plan, it'll already be, I mean, we will have no say.
There'll be a public hearing.
Is this?
There may be more than
set
one.
in stone?
There may be even more than one.
Yeah, just like, yeah, you guys don't matter. That's the way these things work. You know better, I grew up there since
I'm worried
1956
about
on Curtis
drainage.
Ave.
I have
Still there.
flooding in my backyard.
Um,
What are you going to do about that?
So all of this is really just, this is so preliminary at this point. Basically, what they had was scrapped. That's why we wanted them to come back. There's so much more that has to happen. All the engineering has to be done, the SWIP has to be looked at, all of those things are going to be looked at. And sooner rather than later, there will be a public hearing, especially because, but there's nothing to react to right now.
Well,
So
there's
we're gonna
what
see.
to react to, really, but like the traffic study, is that one day? Was that over a course of a month?
So you'll see it, it's going to be
Well, they
very.
said that it did it 2 weeks ago, so.
No, they authorized it 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so is it gonna be more than one day, or is it
And the
gonna be like?
environmental was 2 weeks ago. The cords are across the road right now, I saw them today. It doesn't, it's not a day.
EPA is in the works.
Pardon?
The EPA studies on the dirt and jardines,
Yeah, they
policy
commissioned
area.
those 2 weeks ago, right, they said.
But I'm,
So, and I wanna say that this board greatly values the input of the community. I
agree,
Terry,
100%.
yes,
Yeah.
so.
We all live here too, remember?
No,
the-
you don't-
the-
We all grew up here too.
but it's
Well,
still
not all.
not in that area.
Yeah, you will not be discounted, and first of all, it's the law. Second of all, I know that this board has been very good at doing multiple public hearings and input. Just right now, there's nothing to react to. It's really we're at scratch, okay? And they're doing the studies and everything, and I'm speaking for the board. You will be heard from, and you'll have the opportunity to submit comments as well.
Let me ask you this, if you don't mind. How much does our input affect the final thing?
It will affect it. It's
How
all
much?
important.
How
Don't know.
important is it to you? Or are you like, you know, we hear you,
So I'm a
but
lawyer, so I'm just talking about the law. By law, the public input has a bearing as one of the factors that goes into and all the comments will be heard. It's one of the factors.
But instead of like, maybe hear our concerns before all the stuff is done is what I think people are trying to say. Because it's our neck of the woods. It's like, we don't just live in the in the greater Baldwinsville area. We live in that area, directly impacted.
I get that, and the usual and customary and proper and legal way is to have something to react to, and then we'll come in, and if it's absolutely terrible, if we hear things, this board, the whole thing can be scrapped, but right now, they have so many things they have to do to bring a presentable plan, that's gonna happen, and we're happy that you're here, so you heard literally ground zero.
Right.
Sitting around this
I
table.
also heard them talking about, did they have control of an area? I happened to speak one day to the people who owned that not in control. They didn't want to sell. They're being pressured to sell. Is that the kind of village we want to live in?
I can't speak to that.
I own the land,
Okay, which land?
All
The
of it.
house that's in the,
all of the jardine stuff. And it's not pressure at all. I've worked with these guys for a while now.
no, I'm talking about the people who own
Oh,
a
I'm sorry.
house, a home.
That were pressured to sell their home.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'd like to
it was in
have a
the
motion
way.
to close the meeting.
Not by me.
Second? Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I have a question. Let me change from senior house